welcome to Wrestling and Everything, Coast to Coast, with your hosts, Buddy Sotello and Evan Ginzburg, and very special guest, Eric Shaw, who happens to be the head of All Cities Networking, the International Wrestling Federation, and is also an amazing accounts receivable receivership, bankruptcy receivership business too. So please welcome our guest, Eric Shaw. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated.
Welcome.
If anybody here wants to start off with a question to me, more than welcome to, compared to me rambling on in my pitch. Evan?
Buddy will hit you with some questions.
Yeah. I'm usually the bad cop, and then Evan plays good cop, and I'm the one that does the grilling.
I'm gonna grill you like it's 60 minutes.
Yes, exactly. I want to get the beads of sweat on your forehead. Actually, Eric and I are friends from networking. That's how I got to know him, is through his All Cities networking group. And the reason why I bring that up at the same time that I bring up his wrestling connection is that during these networking events, Eric is completely unashamed at bringing up his wrestling connections and his wrestling career and how he worked as a promoter to how he turns it into a networking opportunity as well. So, Eric, I'd like to sort of have you explain how you tie both things in when you talk about your All Cities networking group.
Okay, now that's a fair question. Let me start off with, because it's tough to just ramble into something. When I got out of college at NYU back in New York, my first job was with a company called United Factors, factoring business, which was very big, where companies lend against accounts receivables. I was the seventh collector hired out of 7 collectors. Who was the number one collector that taught me what I needed to learn in this particular industry? Kid by the name of, I want to say a kid, he's only 23 years old then. And that kid is David Weinberg. Who's David Weinberg? That name ring a bell to anybody? Who's the CFO of Sketches? David Weinberg. All of a sudden, that was my first contact in thinking, wow, look how far I've come to meet somebody like that. Moved out to California in October 77 in time for the Dodger-Yankee World Series. I'm a Dodger fan. Went to the ticket broker. I got $50, sir. Where can you sell me a seat? He said, son, for $50, I can't sell you a seat anywhere. And that's when I realized sports was a business. It wasn't just a sport anymore. And what's the first section of the newspaper when you're growing up that you read? Is it the front page?
Sports.
Sports.
Comics. I will admit, for me, it was the comics.
There you go. And now all of a sudden I realized that's not the first section. It's now the third section that I read in the newspaper. These are little different things that I learned along the way. Moved out to California, like I said, in October 77, and started my own first company, which you're not aware of the name, because I've heard you say that, is a company called New York Credit. And New York Credit runs and manages credit departments for companies. So in other words, like one of my clients is a furniture manufacturer, and he sells to all the retail chains throughout the U.S. He doesn't just sell it. He goes through me, and I approve the credit of the retail store in Wisconsin or the retail store in Louisiana. I run the credit. I make sure the money comes in, because when companies borrow against their accounts receivable, they're paying an interest. And that's where I came in so I could save companies money. So from 1979 to 1990, that's what I was doing. And then I realized, Eric, you can figure out what receivables are worth. You've been doing this so long. You can appraise, value, buy, liquidate receivables. But you don't know any bankruptcy attorneys to get business. You don't know any problem loan bankers to work with their problem loan division. How do you do that? And somebody said, get into networking. So in 1990, I started networking. And by 1992, I started the All Cities Network, where I can meet business professionals the way I wanted to do. Now let's hold up and back up a little bit. I started my company in 1979, and by 1984, I got to meet my favorite band that I went to Woodstock for. And I did go to Woodstock in 69, just to let you know. I got there on Thursday. I left Friday at 12. The show began at 3. Why did I leave? I'm there. What happened? Where do 500,000 kids go to the bathroom? Let's hold that thought, and I'll tell you the answer as we go further into the conversation. Being now out in California, I got to see Canned Heat in concert, probably around 1979, 1980. Got to meet them and got them to play in my backyard, where I'm actually talking from right now, in 1984, 1985, and 1986. But in 1986, I got into wrestling. I was watching WWF on TV a lot. Hulk Hogan and all of these people. It's pretty cool. Maybe I can hire somebody to put a wrestling show on in my backyard with Canned Heat and call it Wrestle Rock, wrestling and rock and roll. And that's what I did, that I started in 1986. I started Wrestle Rock. But I didn't do it as a business. I'm a hippie from the 60s. I went to Woodstock. I did it for the fun of it. I have videos. I have pictures of all the shows in 84, 85, 86, music videos, you name it. And they became my friends. Friends enough where they played at my wedding in 1989 in Malibu, California, where they played at my Y2K party. All right? I mean, these guys became my friends. But then you get back into the wrestling. What am I going to do it besides just putting it in the backyard? Why don't you do something good with it, Eric? You enjoy it. You don't have to worry about it as being a business thing for you. You have New York credit. You have all cities. Why don't you put on shows for military? Give something back to the military. And for 10 years, I played up and down the coast of California, all the different military bases, from Naval Station San Diego to Travis Air Force Base to Edwards Air Force Base. You name it, I played all the bases. Didn't make money on those shows. I just did it for the fun of it. If I lost money putting on, that's great. I didn't mark it up as a profit. And that's how Wrestle Rock got off the ground. And to show you something, for the sake of this show, this is one of my magazines. Been on the market since 1990. I don't know if it's on the market anymore. And inside is the articles on my show and on me. And I'm known as the Bob Hope of professional wrestling. That's my moniker back in the 80s and 90s. But I have a whole bunch of wrestling magazines that I'm in, if you can see them. Hopefully I put it up properly for you. So you get an idea of how strong my wrestling was. I didn't even realize how it was. I was interviewed on a show called Window on Wall Street. Wow, a financial show, but they interviewed me for wrestling. Why? Because I put a show on for a real estate group that raises money for kids to go to college. And I put on a black tie affair at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown LA, videotape food. I didn't pay for that. The real estate people do, and it was top notch. And again, I have the videos of all this. And I did that for 10 years in just putting out shows. You know what? You outgrow certain things. And I stopped doing it. But you know what? I'm 69 right now. What do you do in the future? What could I do? I have an asset that was a really good asset. I had 12 songs written for the show. It was a regular play. Why can't I put it on again? Why can't I do something good? So I look back on my contacts, especially through All Cities, because I have a media group in All Cities. I got to meet other people that opened up the doors for me, like a gentleman by the name of Joe Sabatino. Joe wrote and produced Necessary Roughness, the show on TBS or TNT. He's been on over 500 shows. He's a friend of mine. Got to meet him. He became one of my announcers at the show. And here, I wound up putting it on. It's actually August 10th I put it on. And I honored a 93-year-old World War II veteran. Just give back to that. Again, no money made for me. Anything that was there, give it to the veteran. Let him do whatever he's got to do to make his life complete. And that's where the wrestling kind of kicked in. But now I gave you 3 different businesses of what I do. And let me tell you, let's go back to the receiverships for a second and how you mix in wrestling. I'm going to show you how you mix in all three businesses if you don't feel there's anything wrong with it. And because I believe everybody is your equal, growing up in Brooklyn, all my friends were Catholic, Italian, Jewish. Didn't make a bit of difference who you were, so I never had a thought of, am I hurting somebody? Am I slamming somebody? No. As a court-appointed receiver, for the people out there that don't know what that is, I typically get hired or referred by the banks, lenders, and lawyers to the court system to take over companies, to run them, to sell them, to close them down, to take over properties, to manage them, to collect rents, to sell them, in order for these lenders and secured creditors to get paid back. Here's the humorous note of how you mix wrestling with receiverships. You think when I get hired to be a receiver and I take over a manufacturing company, the owner's going to give me the keys to his business without a fight? I always bring a half a dozen wrestlers with me and film it just to be safe. Nobody messes around with my Samoans, especially if they're coming in with their sarongs on and scars down their stomach. So that's how I mixed wrestling with my receiverships with work like that. But through the years, prior to doing the show last August, something else I did. I created postcards. Can you see what that says?
Yeah. Are you being squeezed by your receivables?
Yeah.
Right? Each one of these. Or losing control of your business. All right? Or there are two ways to collect money. Want to know another?
Yeah.
These are all humorous. Because one of the things I learned when you meet people is if you don't speak or you don't ask questions, then you're nowhere. And I always tell people, if you ask the question, the other person loves to speak. And that person will give you information. And it's your job, if you're a networker, to take that information and how do I utilize it? And I'm going to give you another tip that I got through all of these years of doing this. My son, when he was born in 1993, was diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit hyper disorder. All right? And nobody wants to talk about that. It's an emotional thing, blah, blah, blah. And that happens. But my wife did a really good job in looking behind the scenes and seeing what you can do. And through my networking group, we met people that were actually able to put my son into a private school, see doctors, and not pay a dime. Through All Cities, I saved $500,000 of contacts with doctors. And that, to me, was a big thing. Tell that to a banker when you're having lunch with them. You know, my kid had ADHD and blah, blah, blah. Eric, my kid has that. Can you turn me on to that doctor? That doctor's gotten over 100 referrals from me, and I've gotten 100 thank yous from all of those bankers, lenders, lawyers, and anybody else that I was able to help by making that referral. That's doing good. That, to me, is what it's all about. And I got that feeling because of All Cities. All Cities is a networking organization with 17 networking groups from Newport Beach, California to San Francisco. And the groups are broken down into vertical business categories. There's real estate, healthcare, technology, business and finance, cannabis. Get to meet all these people, you get to become a player, and you see exactly what's going on all around the world, not just locally. That's the best part of All Cities. And one of the tweets that I always print out with All Cities is this: any line item on a balance sheet or profit and loss can be handled by somebody in All Cities, which means we all can do anything, never turn down a deal. And I've been doing All Cities now 28 years. It's a great way to get business. It's a great way to market yourself and get your name out there. And having the wrestling humorously at the All Cities meetings, we have an elevator pitch. We go around the room, there's 25 people around the table, and everybody gives a 30 to 45-second elevator pitch. And when I gave my pitch saying I'm also a wrestling promoter, there was a guy in the back that said, Eric, not my daughter, my sister is married to a wrestler. Really? Who's the wrestler? Stone Cold Steve Austin. You're kidding me. Stone Cold's my neighbor 4 houses away. Now I got to meet his sister, closer to Stone Cold because of that, because we walk our dogs. So we get to meet the people. And that's the object of what everything is. How do you piece everything together? I told you who David Weinberg was for sketches. Another guy I met growing up in the 80s, I had softball. Played softball out here with a lot of our friends. My right fielder and first baseman, same guy, is a guy by the name of Lee Zeidman. Anybody know Lee Zeidman?
Nope.
No? Who's the president of Staples? Lee Zeidman.
Probably
Lee Zeidman. That's exactly right. And Lee Zeidman, before he moved up the ladder to get to that point, he was on the board of trustees of University of Santa Barbara. And he helped me put my wrestling show on at UC Santa Barbara. And that's where we highlighted our show. We filmed it all. It was one of the first shows we did for the class and played it in the gym. So I'm only mentioning names, not because they're my close friends, although they know me and I know them well. But the point is, you never know who you're going to meet. And that, to me, is kind of what networking is all about. Like, Russell,
Okay.
How do you meet people? How do you meet people, Russell?
Oh, also I met you through networking too. You were introduced to me through someone that I knew that was a real estate agent that is a friend of Craig Stewart Adams, who is also one of the members of your group. And wrestling came up between my friend Steven and Craig, and Craig said, "Oh my God, you got to meet this guy Eric, because that's what he's all about." So the whole wrestling connection came in through there. I wanted to also kind of go back to your your real background and find out why wrestling is so interesting to you, and what got you started in wrestling at all. What were the first wrestlers that you watched when you were a kid?
Oh, Bruno Sammartino and Buddy Rogers with the figure 4. That was my years in the wrestling business. By 1980, and wrestling's getting big now, and then Hulk Hogan comes out. It's not that, boy, I'm into wrestling and that's why I did it. That was my age group then, and I love it just like canned heat. I consider myself the #1 fan in the world of canned heat. The #1 fan in the world of canned heat. I don't think anybody has more memorabilia of what I have, more personal things of what I have. That, to me, is my life. If I can live my past, which I enjoy, and I can do it again now, because when you reach a certain age, you run out of things to do. Not all my friends are alive anymore. I don't stay out late at night. I'm not going to a club to drink at midnight. So how do you change that? And if people can see what you've done and they say, I like what Eric did in that wrestling, I want to get involved with him, I'll help him. That's why some of the people at my show were from 35 years ago. And I had some top names in wrestling back then, whether it's Mondo Guerrero from the Guerrero family, Chavo Guerrero, Hector Guerrero, Rey Mysterio. Those were all my guys when they were starting out. Rob Van Dam, he became a personal friend of mine now. He gets involved in the cannabis group of all cities. And I don't mean it in a humorous way. What I'm saying is he's doing books and talks on what did wrestling do to him and how does cannabis fix it right now? And how can he get more actively involved like a documentarian? So you meet these people and you realize you have something to offer them. I don't know if you know this or not, but 10 months ago when I put the show on, the main event was Crime Time versus Simbodi and Papa Esco. Crime Time, don't know if you know who they are. They wrestled a lot in the WWE, WWF.
Yeah, Chad just passed.
Exactly right. And if you saw the video I sent you, I don't know if I sent you the up-to-date one, Russell. At the very end, there's a tribute to Shad. Shad lived only 2 blocks from me. He'd go to the beach all the time in Marina Del Rey. So to me, yeah, I want to be where at least things happen and I feel like this is my neighborhood. That's what I've learned, why I do what I do. I'm not doing it to make money in wrestling. I do it. It's fun. It's like meeting somebody in the television business, in the movie business. You do it if you can, and you see how it works. And when you hang out with certain people who have the ability to do it, you were great for me, Russell. You gave me contracts, right? You passed me on the contracts.
I am the master of the contract.
That's
That's my tagline for Buddy Sotello. Is I am the master of the contract.
Right. So, those are the reasons why I do these things. So you never know who you're going to meet and what's next in Eric's life that he can do. And if you had a question, a concern, or whatever, let me tell you this about All Cities. Here's the format so you'll understand when I say to you, any line item on a balance sheet or profit and loss can be handled by somebody in All Cities. From 7 to 7:30 in the morning, the host location puts out the food so we can schmooze and network. Okay? At 7:30, we now all sit around the conference table, and depending on how many people are there, it could be 2 deep. You get 20 around the table and 10 more around that. And we now go around the room, and everybody gives their 30 to 45-second elevator pitch. Tell us, don't sell us. If you're in the business and finance group, bankers, lenders, lawyers, CPAs, investment bankers, mergers and acquisitions, and then anybody else who is in business that wants to beat that. No more than 30% can be outside the vertical group. That's going to take us to 8:05. At 8:05, if you've never been to my meeting, like in Evan, I'm now going to give you a minute or two, Evan, and tell us only personal, where you're from. First thing you say is, I'm from New York. Somebody's going to yell at you and say, what borough? What high school? They're going to pick on you if they're from New York. That's the best part, and that gives you the notoriety that you need to meet the people. That takes you to 8:15. I just give you an example. Here's the slogan of All Cities. This is the place where you will learn how to network, make money, and gain new friends. And those 3 things are the agenda. Now, Eric, what do you mean learning how to network? What are you going to teach me? Hey, Evan, if I give you a name tag, because I want you to wear one at the meeting, everybody should know who you are, which side of the body do you put it on and why? Either over your heart or the other side.
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
It's got to be one of the two. I'll say over my heart.
Over your heart. And that's wrong. You know why?
That's why we have you on.
Pretend you're going to shake my hand. Which hand do you use?
My right one usually.
Right. Now take your hand and stretch it out to shake my hand now. Your left side bends over the other way. I can't see your name tag.
Oh.
Shake your hand, you're making the name tag right in front of my eyes. Got it?
Never too old to learn.
That's what it's all about. Now we're going to make money. Part 2 of the meeting at 8:15.
Even if my name tag was in the wrong place, you're okay with it?
No, I'm not. You're going to be told.
Okay.
That's why you get networking tips.
All
right? The person who invited you, Russell, he brings you to the meeting. Most people sit next to Russell if he brought you there. Why would you want to sit next to Russell? You're shaking his head. Because if you sit next to him, you wiped out 50% of your networking. You already know Russell. Little things like that, we don't think about it because you're comfortable. Get out of your comfort zone.
So what's more important in the business world, networking or nepotism? Because I'm always seeing a lot of nepotism, which is ugly sometimes.
I wouldn't go with nepotism.
Yeah.
Right? That's the easy way to say it.
You can't if you're born into it. You're great if you're lucky enough to be born into it, but most of us aren't. That's the sad reality of it.
Right. So now let me show you how we make money in All Cities. Second section at 8:15. Needs, deals, wants, and testimonials. This is where you throw out on the table any specific needs or deals you might have. Like, I'm putting on a wrestling show in 4 months. I need a lawyer who knows contracts. I need an accounts receivable line of credit for my furniture manufacturer. Throw it on the table. Maybe somebody can help you. Maybe nobody can. When you go back to your office, you go online to our website. You post that need and deal, and I broadcast it to the entire organization. Within 1 hour, you can get a dozen responses back to people up and down the coast of California. That opens up your entire door to do it. Testimonials. I want to thank Russell Jackman for getting me the contracts for my wrestling show. I want to thank ABC Lending for getting the financing for my furniture manufacturer. But I don't want it to die just in the room of 25 people. When you go back to your office, go online to the website, post a testimonial. I then put it on the homepage of our website so people can see who you are and a picture of you. They click on your picture and it goes to your profile page on the All Cities website. And by the way, I take that same testimonial, Evan, and I put it on your profile page. So all your testimonials are on your profile page. Kind of like home advisors. You're there in the business community with testimonials on you. But I don't want it to die there either. Let's put it in my newsletter. That newsletter goes out to 30,000 people a month. What's the name of the newsletter? Do All Cities members make money? You be the judge. And they read all of these testimonials are there and they say, this guy Evan, I can use his service. They click on your name and your profile page pops up. So nothing ever dies in the room. And the more meetings you go to, the more people you can meet.
What if somebody like myself is 3,000 miles away? How does that work?
Okay. When March 15th came around with COVID and everything had to be closed down. Oh no, Eric, if you don't have any meetings, you can't get any more guests. If you can't get any more guests, you can't get any more members. What happens to All Cities? And then the moderators in my room said, Eric, let's do Zoom meetings. Now we're doing 10 Zoom meetings a month. The moderators have now hooked up for it. And now I'm getting people who are 3,000 miles away, who are in Germany. All of a sudden, this opened up a whole new door for All Cities. And moderators said, Eric, even if we can go back to live, let's still do Zoom meetings monthly. Either it's 1 a week or 2 a week, because people can do it out of their comfort zone. So hopefully that answers your question. I was blown away by that.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, no, and it's quite a schlep to get in from Novato into San Francisco. So it's kind of nice to have that option to do it from, not have to do the commute in, because it's quite a distance. A lot of people think Marin County is like a 1-minute drive into San Francisco, and it's actually going through maybe some of the worst of society's traffic to get into SF. Although now it isn't such a big deal because the traffic isn't as bad. It's growing again. The traffic here is growing again. But one thing that I had a question for you is, because you still want to do shows as a promoter sometime in the future. When do you think that's going to be a time that you're going to be feeling safe, that it is a good time to put on shows?
Well, somehow things always seem to fall into place. Number one, do you realize it's 10 months that I put that show on? It feels like maybe 2 months ago. 3 months.
I know. Yeah, that does feel like.
Well, but now, what did I just give you yesterday? I gave you the promo video. I'm being interviewed right now on the show. I've called by people, some charities that wanted to know about what was going on. I now have a complete package. I can now start saying I could put the shows on. But the one thing I have done, which I always do, is I don't want to lose contact with people that I meet. And I become friends with all the wrestlers. We're waiting now for this to happen. They're willing to work for me. Because at my show, we had massage therapists come in, no charge to the wrestlers. We had certain guards come in just because they wanted to be there. So to me, I've got a feeling over the next 60 to 90 days, I'll be meeting a lot of charities, because you can't put a show on yet because of COVID. But after seeing the protests, it's almost like COVID doesn't even exist anymore. I'm watching people not even walking with masks outside. It's really a strange thing. But
we'll find out in 2 weeks about how wise a decision that was.
What's that now?
We'll find out in about 2 weeks what a wise decision that was for these people.
Right. That's right. That's what we're waiting for right now.
Right.
I don't know if you guys can notice, I got a haircut.
Hey,
I went to his house and he was able to cut my hair. I mean, after 4 months of no haircut, hey, I was happy.
Yeah.
Right?
I've got the COVID hair going myself too. I have to find someone to give it weed whacking.
I noticed that your nails are 2 inches long.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Right?
Howard Hughes has nothing on me, but so, but I was, when you do put on shows, how do you think they're going to be different than the way that we were doing them in the past?
I think what people don't realize is, remember my show's name, Wrestle Rock. I've had Sha Na Na play at my show, Can Heat play at my show, Wasp play at my show. Okay, I want it to be music. Music to me makes the audience move. That's how I do that. And since I wrote 12 songs and the bands can play 1 or 2 or 3 extras, it's a concert. It's not just music for an hour and then wrestling. We can mix the two and create the show from the music. We've lost a lot of guitars in these shows, just to let you know. Give you another humorous thing. I told you I've been a Can Heat fan since 1968, since the original 5 members. But one of the 5 members left in 1968. His name was Frank Cook. Okay, he left. I met the drummer who replaced him. I didn't know Frank Cook at the time. Okay, this is an album cover from 1968, and that's Frank Cook right over there. He's the drummer. Okay?
He looks unhappy. Maybe that's why he left.
A lot of drugs.
Okay.
Okay, now let's hold that thought. I'm Jewish, and literally 15, 20 yards away is the synagogue Chabad that I go to in Marina Del Rey. And about a year and a half ago, I'm out front of my house and I'm wearing my Can Heat t-shirt of that album cover. I have t-shirts of all of this, okay? Why am I saying that? My rabbi says, Eric, look, it's 5:45 at night right now. At 6 o'clock, we're doing a little dinner at the Chabad. Please come over even just for a few minutes. Okay, I grab my wife. I walk over there. It's 5 to 6 right now. And I said, Eric, network. There's about 8, 10 people over there. And there's a guy over there, got white hair. He's about 6'1", 6'2". Say hello to him. Walked over to him. Hi, I'm Eric Shaw. I put out my hand to shake his hand. And he looks at me. He looks at the shirt. He takes his hand. And he's ready to shake my hand. But I don't understand why he's not doing it. And he takes his finger and he points to that picture of Frank Cook and says, that's me. I got to meet him. He's 76 years old. He's a writer, and he helps kids to get off drugs.
Wow.
I literally got to meet Frank Cook, the drummer from Can Heat. Who'd ever think that? So to me, when you say certain things of how do you do this and how do you do that, this is my normal life. I'm not stepping out of my comfort zone to meet these people. It's my everyday life. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to call that guy up. That to me is, I'll give you another name of somebody that I grew up with out here. Not that I hang out with them, but look at how close I became. Anybody got any pets?
No.
All right, I got
a guinea pig.
I've had many as 5 dogs at one time. I've got 2 right now. VCA Animal Center. Probably heard of them, Veterinary Centers of America. Who's the owner of that? Okay, his name is, I'm drawing a blank because I'm mentioning so many names, but it turns out he was my basketball player on my basketball court in the 80s. As we talk further, I'll tell you his name. I pass his house every day. But again, meeting people is just a way to get to the next level. As long as you're okay, they're okay. And growing up in New York, I'm okay. I might say something that might be a little bit offensive, but it's not meant to be offensive. It's just, I'm okay. I
guess my question wasn't so much about the networking side of things, because I do think you could network just about anywhere. But my thought is putting on an actual wrestling show. Like when you eventually do put on another show, how is that going to be different? What things are you going to look for to try to, protect people from COVID-19 and be aware of the, sanitation needs that everybody needs?
The only thing
big challenge.
The only thing that concerns me, that would concern me in the wrestling show is this, and this is kind of where All Cities came in. I can put a show on anywhere I want. Do I want to try to get the people to come and advertise for outside people that I don't know and pay for ads to run on the paper to do the show? No. I'd rather ask the people in all cities, turn me on to a charity organization. They pay $8,000. I put the show on. They keep everything up after $8,000. I don't want to worry about me spending the money. I'd rather sell it to people who have the money, see the great show that we put on, the business professionals that will show up, just to Merrick. It could be 200 or 300 people, but look who's there. They like that because those could be future sponsors for those charities. So that's how I look at the wrestling. I'm not worried about putting a show on. I could put on one a week. I've got the backdrop and the back people to work with them to put a show on immediately. That's the best thing of what I do here.
But for instance, Evan was talking last week about a Fed that's going to have everyone drive up in their cars and do like a drive-in.
Yeah, they're worried about COVID, so they're having all the fans in their cars, like going to a drive-in movie. Titan Championship Wrestling.
Which championship wrestling is it?
Titan Championship Wrestling out of Jersey. Yes.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how much they charge for what it is. They might have their own school of hard knocks, for lack of a better word.
$60 a carload.
$60 a carload. So
Yeah.
maybe it could be $15, $20 a person or whatever, something like that. That's inexpensive. If my show costs at least $8,000 to $10,000 at $20 a ticket, how many tickets do I got to sell? Ain't going to happen. Right? I don't have the PR to do it. That's where I say, what are my assets that are in front of me that I can utilize to make this work? If I don't make any money, but somebody says, Eric, I can get 300 people to come for this charity, fine, those 300 people can give that money to charity. I don't care about it. That's the best way to make it work. Let me explain something too. And I mentioned this to Russell the other day. In the section of all cities, I said testimonials. I want to thank Evan for getting me that loan. I want to thank Russell for those contracts. Think about this. That section in my meeting takes 20, 25 minutes. You can hear 20 testimonials. It dawned on me several years ago, you know, Eric, if you didn't have those meetings, you wouldn't get those 20 testimonials today. Matter of fact, multiply that 5 days a week. That's 100 testimonials a week, 400 a month. Hey, Evan, how many testimonials a day do you get?
0.
Exactly.
No, that's not true at all. No, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Rewind that. I'm going to have to rewind the segment. We're going to have to re-record the whole thing over again. You get a lot. Hold on. You get a lot of people saying how great 350 days is. And 350 days is great.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, don't play false modesty here. Evan is the associate producer behind 350 Days, and that was a really great movie. I don't know if you had a chance to see it yet, but hopefully, you know, if you haven't, you get a chance to see it maybe over the weekend, because I actually watched part of it again over the week, and I was again impressed with the contributions that you were able to put together on that
If
film.
you've done a movie like that, that's great, and you get the compliments and all of that, but that doesn't keep on going every day. 10 years from now, that generation might not see it anymore. That's all I'm getting at.
We did the wrestler with Mickey Rourke also, so
Right.
That'll live forever.
Now, Mickey Rourke knows me. We asked him to be part of that show that we put on in August. We couldn't get him to come because some of my friends from New York know him because of the movie, and they work in the entertainment industry.
Right.
So, but what I was getting at was, you know, Eric, if it wasn't for those meetings that you put on, you wouldn't hear those testimonials. So I'm going to ask you a question, Evan, since age category. What was, and maybe still is, the best day of the week, and what's typically the worst day of the week? Growing up now, what would you say it is?
Growing up or now?
Growing up. Let's do growing up. What was the best day of the
Well,
week?
growing up, it would be Saturday because Saturday morning Soul Train came on, and back in the day, it was live. So you had James Brown, Al Green, you know,
Right.
etc. So on.
What was the worst day of the week?
Worst day of the week was Monday because I had to go to school, and it was rough back then.
Right. Now, to me, it's reversed. The best day of the week is Monday. The worst day of the week is Friday or the weekend. Why? Because Monday through Friday, I get all of these testimonials, and Friday we close up. There's nothing on the weekend.
Right.
And I realized that also. These are little things you learn in life to make life better. It doesn't mean I'm living that, but it's part of my life to make me feel good. That to me is a big difference of how I look at life and what I'm doing. I noticed that my son, how do I know when he's coming home? Because I can hear the loud music outside with the convertible down, or he's playing. And I will tell you this truthfully, I listen to Canned Heat every day. I listen to the boogie of Canned Heat 3 times a day. I just love to be back in the 60s and 70s. That's
That's
Eric.
that's like me listening to P-Funk.
There you go. There you go.
That's right.
That's what makes us move. When I look at the wrestling right now, these wrestlers, they look at me as their friend. First, they look at me as the boss, but then they saw who Eric really is, and I can talk to them like, Eric, please call me. I really want to wrestle for you again. I see a lot of that. School of Hard Knocks, Empire Wrestling Federation. Those guys started with me in 1986, and now they got their own group where they teach the wrestlers how to wrestle. I can call them up and say, send me over 3 wrestlers. I need 2 wrestling rings. Whatever it is, I'm there. Another wrestling guy of ours is Rick Drazen.
I know Rick. Rick was in 350 Days.
He was. Okay.
Yeah.
Rick's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Rick was part of my meetings when I put the show on recently.
Yeah, world famous bodybuilder.
Right. He's also the image of Gold's Gym.
Right. He designed that, I believe.
Exactly right. Yeah. Right. So you see, now we have a hook. Now you got the Rick Drazen hook as far as that goes.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I put that together. Another interesting hook. When I moved to Marina Del Rey in 77, 78, one of my friends a half a block away is Corbin Burnson. That
LA Law.
LA Law. We've stayed friends through all of these years. I spoke to him before I put the show on. He's now presently living in New York. He doesn't care so much for the TV business anymore. You don't get paid that much for doing a one shoot thing for 4 minutes. So he's doing real estate. Yeah, I'll buy some property, I'll sell the property. But they love what I'm doing for this because they know where I've been and where I'm going. And I don't want to feel old about it.
Tell us about some of the pictures on your wall, right behind you there.
Yeah, you see that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how much well, actually, I'll turn this around just a little bit. Up there, if you can see, that's The Rock. If you can see that.
Yep.
All right. There's The Undertaker. No?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And the one next to that's Rob Van Dam and Bill Alfonso, his manager.
We can't see back there.
You can't see that far.
Cuts off just a little
turn
bit.
Around that much. But if I did this way, there's Jesse the Body up on top over there. If you can see that or no?
Yep.
You can see that one. I have pictures all over. That's what I want. Again, it makes me feel young, right? I'm your age. I'm younger than you are.
There you go.
Combined.
I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about the rock and wrestling connection and just how, because I mean, it's a big thing for Evan as well as it is for yourself. Music and wrestling, as you were saying, it's something that gets people to move. Why do you think rock and roll and wrestling are so intertwined and have always wanted to be so intertwined?
You said something that's not really 100% true, but it's okay. Rock and wrestling. Well, that was the 80s, 70s and 80s. That's kind of rock and roll, this and that. But then you can throw in disco music and whatever else you want to call it. When I wrote the 12 songs, or I helped write it with other writers that I have, it wasn't that it was rock and roll. It was music that somebody would sit and say, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? There's a thought behind it just to make the audience aware. What goes into your ears will come out. One of the things I teach in networking is if you ask a question, you'll get the information back. You heard me say that before. In my book on networking, it says, everybody is your equal. I don't care if you're a janitor, a gardener, the president of the United States, we're all equal. And that's always been my philosophy. And by the way, it didn't always work for me in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, even the early 2000s. Okay, not everybody thinks along the same lines. I'm a hodgepodge of everything, but I try to show what I'm capable of doing in everything. Nothing is chintzy. Nothing is only a one-shot deal. Everything's got a long frame of mind. I mean, wrestling is 34 years. All cities is 28. New York credit's 41. So it's just amazing that you can see all these different things. Why get bored? And now that I see the Zoom meetings, why don't I get somebody who's technical and help me grow it? Give them a piece of the business. Hey, help me promote the wrestling again and do it from a different angle. Really get on the internet and promote it. That's my weakness. I'll tell you this, don't know if you ever talk about it. What's your guys' weaknesses? I'm not computer literate. There's just so much I can do without worrying about the finite different things.
Mine is walking a scooter apparently across the sidewalk with my kids and falling and breaking my shoulder. That's my incredible weakness.
Right.
I'm not walking scooters anymore. So
No, not at all. What's interesting is having the cannabis group with wrestling. It's amazing how many wrestlers smoke cannabis, try not to do it because if they get tested and it doesn't come out good, they don't look good. They get suspended.
it's a better alternative than opiates. I can absolutely attest to that from a personal standpoint.
Depending on the age, you know. That show, Wrestling After Dark, when I saw that for the first time several weeks ago, and by the way, don't know if you saw it, but they did a thing on Dr. D. David Schultz. He was one of my wrestlers.
Oh, there you
And
go.
when you see the show, you'll see him wearing my T-shirt being interviewed by Lee Marshall at my show.
What was it like working with him?
He was a nice guy. I didn't see any faults with him. He's got his image, and that's who he is. That's the wrestling business. Once you come to the event, you're that image. There is no change. Eric is that person. I'm not bossing you around. Let's see how you do. If you don't, you ain't coming back. You know, that's one of the easy things to accomplish.
Can you tell me one of your favorite matches that you booked for one of your shows?
I think the best match was we were on the Wally George show. I don't know if you know this, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, they did repeats of Wally George, and we're on the show with Pistol Pete and Buddha Khan. We're being interviewed by Wally George, and a fight erupts. And I'm part of the fight on TV, and then you got the blood dripping down everywhere. So that was probably my best thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll give you the best one. UC Santa Barbara. We're at the conference table, right? And it's me, Mondo Guerrero, and maybe 12 to 14 UC Santa Barbara students over there. They're around.
About what year was this?
87.
My God, they're probably some of my classmates that I went to high school with. Seriously, because a lot of people from Redwood High School wound up going to UC Santa Barbara. But continue.
Well, check on Lee Zeidman because Lee Zeidman was there. He ran the board. Okay, so we're at the event and we're talking about what's going to go on at the show, and all of a sudden, my shark character comes running into the ring, not into the ring, into the office over there. Okay, and he's literally wearing a shark costume, the mask, everything on him, total shark. And he picks up Mondo Guerrero, cuts him on the forehead, body slams him on the table, and runs out of the room. You don't see the Shark Man ever again that way. What had happened? They did an article in the student newspaper the next day. Shark attack, UC Santa Barbara. Come see the final results in 2 weeks. And that's how we got the show off the ground, by doing that. That, to me, was the best PR that we ever did. Even like talking today about the wrestling, and I'm looking at all the wrestling magazines that I'm in. I had a business back then, but I didn't treat it like one. It was strictly for the fun of it. I didn't do it. If somebody was with me and said, Eric, let's make it a business. You can be on the side. You can help me, Eric, but I'll push it out there. If I had a guy like you, Russell, I'd be out there. I have an asset that's there. There's nothing missing from the asset. I need booking. Hey, I'll give you a percentage of the booking if you can get X amount of people. Anything over this amount, you get more people. I don't have a problem with any of that. And you can use my assets to even try to raise the money or grow the group because you got all cities. I got 250 people that have some kind of money, and they're all in business. They're not the real estate. They're not the flower person or the grocery store at the front. These are all business professionals. They got contacts. You got a wealth manager from UBS or a wealth manager from B of A. They got contacts. There might be somebody that loves wrestling and they want to get involved. That is where I come in. Anybody who wants to utilize me, I'm behind you. You're not behind me. I'm the one that's going to give you all the support that I have so we can do whatever you think is good. The only reason why I didn't put a show on in San Francisco, not my territory, that would take a lot more effort to me to even think that I can fill up an arena. We did Veterans Auditorium in Culver City. Beautiful place, beautiful. And the cost was like $3,000 and it holds 1,800 people. It was a phenomenal place to do it. I would do that all over again. Matter of fact, that would be my first go-to venue to put on a show that's worth it. Parking free, no problem. Food is easy to get to, no problem. So to me, wrestling is just a unique way of saying who Eric is and how can Eric utilize that tool to make it better. Remember, I didn't put on regular shows other than UC Santa Barbara. Everything else was military. Got to meet all of those people. So there's Magic Schwartz that I had. He played Harley Davidson, the character. Wild Man Jack Armstrong. Chief J Strongbow. He wrestled 10 matches for me. So I've had all of these people that have been close. Rey Mysterio, is still famous. Eddie Guerrero passed away. Mondo can't wrestle anymore. So you stay in contact and you realize the wrestling business. And that's why hooking up with the people from Empire Wrestling, Jesse Hernandez. Jesse was a referee in the WWE in the 70s and 80s. He worked for me the same way, then started his own thing. And Jesse Hernandez has got his own school called the School of Hard Knocks. I pick up the phone to Jesse. He puts together the matches in a heartbeat. Got all these young people that want to get into wrestling. It's no problem putting a show on. I don't have to listen to other professionals telling me, well, Eric, you got to do it my way. No, you don't. You do it to what's good for the people, including the wrestlers. I'm not hiring a guy for 15 minutes to wrestle. I want to promote him. I want to make him big so he can come back. That, to me, is where this all comes together.
That's great. I wanted you to have a few minutes to talk about your books because the audience, I think, would be interested to know that you have written a couple of books.
Right. And actually, like I said, this Game of Credit book, all right, I've got something. 1 second. I've got inside the book comes a board game called the Game of Credit. And every box is a chapter in my book. These are all chapters. Okay? And one of the things I teach people is this. Let's pretend, Evan, you just hired me, okay, to run your credit department. Right. You just gave me a $5,000 retainer check. Thank you very much, Evan. I appreciate it. I got a question for you, Evan. Now that you gave me the $5,000, who do you think I want to impress with my service? You just paid me $5,000. Who would be the first person you want me to impress?
My clients.
Your clients? Well, that's more than one. Unless you
I don't know.
You would typically, most people would say, me, Eric, I gave you $5,000. Right? That would be the standard. No, I don't want to impress you. I want to impress your lender. If your lender is happy, you're happy. That's why you hired me. You're not getting paid. You're not paying your interest. Okay? If that lender is happy, I can get 35 referrals from him. He's got a whole portfolio. One of the things I teach members in the group, who are the 4 best referral sources that you get from all cities? I did a study on this 3 years ago. You go around the room and you ask that question. Bankers give me the most. CPAs give me the most. Lawyers give me the most. And they realized after about 3 months of this, including the insurance people, including the real estate people, The people that give the most referrals are the banker, lender, lawyer, CPA. Wow. Why is that? They control the money. They have more clients than anybody else. They're in charge of the company that they're lending the money to. That's why you want to meet them. So here's a networking tip. Russell's a banker. I want to get to meet him. It's not a problem loan banker, somebody that I wanted to meet, but I don't know anybody at Bank of the West where Russell's at. I'm going to call him up and take him out to lunch. Evan, I'm going to use you now as my example. I want you to call up Russell and tell Russell you want to meet him and you want to meet him. What would you say to him? Pretend from scratch right now. You're on the phone with Russell. You want to have lunch. What would you say next?
Russell, when are you available for lunch?
It might be a little bit of a commute.
Well, let's
We'll
just
have to
say
meet
tomorrow.
in
Let's say
Kansas.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's, for argument's sake, you say tomorrow. Now, what do you say next, Evan?
What time?
Okay, he says 12 o'clock.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Where would you like to meet?
I'll meet
Actually,
you
if I
again
can-
down the
if-
block, 2 blocks away.
If I could meet you anywhere in New York, it would be at Nathan's at Coney Island. I'd actually, that's the one place I never got to in New York City when I was out there. I never got to Coney Island, so
Oh, okay.
I have
Okay,
to, I have
I'm
to
gonna meet him
check
at
it out.
Nathan's. Okay?
I'll meet you in front of Nathan's tomorrow at 12.
Okay.
Now, that's wrong.
Why is
I
that?
don't know why. I
Yeah.
said to you at the very beginning that I want to meet him. He's a banker. But I really want a problem loan banker or meet even more bankers that might know the problem loan people. Hey, Russell, I'm going to come to your office tomorrow at 11:45. I know you'll valet park my car over there because you're in the big building, and we can walk to the restaurant 2 blocks away. If I get there 15 minutes earlier, he can walk me around the entire office. I might get 8 more banker business cards from 8 more people just for getting there 10 minutes early.
I'm gonna show you around. Yeah, it's a good tip.
I don't think Russell is that mercenary. Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
you're
I
going to
really
find
wanna
that
go
out
meet-
after the lunch compared to just going to lunch,
Yeah.
right? But you see what I'm getting at? Those are little tips.
Oh,
But
yeah.
They make a very big difference to people. You know, when I tell people there's a networking tip in sports, I learned this being a Green Bay Packer fan. I'm a real big Green Bay Packer fan. Vince Lombardi said, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. That was his thing. If I'm going to set up a meeting with you, you got to come 10 minutes early or I'm going to be there 10 minutes early. Do you know if you go to Lambeau Field where the Packers play in Wisconsin, every clock is turned back 10 minutes? That's a normal situation. When I tell people my meeting starts at 7 a.m. and from 7 to 7:30 we can schmooze, why'd you come at 20 after 7? Why'd you blow that? You can't even meet all the people you want to meet on a one-on-one. Now you got to sit around the conference table and wait. I never could understand that with networking, but that's a networking tip.
Maybe some people just aren't ambitious.
Maybe, and maybe that person won't be part of my networking group.
Right.
And that's not the person I want to meet. But you see how easy it is to figure it out at one location, right? We do the Zoom meetings. Truthfully now, this came up after the first couple of Zoom meetings. A guy like Russell checks into the Zoom meeting at 7 a.m. in the morning, and he's wearing his Giants shirt. Is that a business professional I might want to deal with in my business? I don't know. But it's not an image that you might not want.
What is the line between being content with your life and content with your financial status and always wanting more?
I think the answer comes down to is, are you content? Are you well enough right now you want to retire in 5 years, Evan? If not, you got to make 10 years worth of money in 5 years to do it. Means you're not content.
Basically, I just want to do creative things that are of quality, and should the money follow, that would be great. If not, I'm fine with it. You know, this show is a labor of love. We are most likely not going to make money from this show. So sometimes, you know, I appreciate network, and I tell young people all the time, you know, networking is really vital, but sometimes, you know, I think there's also a line where you just want to be happy with what you're doing, and because you could always crave more.
Well, no, but you just said, well, I might not make any money doing this show. So my question to you is, though, you're 60 years old. Can you retire in 5 years because you have made enough money?
Yes.
You have. Okay, so you're good then. You're content.
Yeah.
You're that person I would meet in my networking group, knowing he's okay. If I talk to him and he's okay now, then we can have a good conversation. We both don't need what we want, but if we both like where we're talking, then we can do something.
Okay.
There's a difference. Russell, when you lost your big client or whatever, and you have to research it, you're not content right now. You've got a network. My job is
enough
to help
money
Russell.
for a new shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why the Giants,
Yeah.
Right, it's the San Francisco Giants. They're the what team have you rooted for that won 3 World Series championships in the 2010 range? You know,
Right.
no one from New York. No one
Right.
from New York. So, yeah, and also another reason that I'm not, all suited up is that I still have a lot of trouble getting my arm in through a T-shirt, my left arm through a T-shirt because of the broken shoulder. I still cannot lift my left arm up completely.
If you
You've been wearing that for 3 months.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, yeah, it's you got to rotate them.
You ever watch Bar Rescue, the TV show?
Yes, I do.
Hey, John Taffer, what's his famous line? I don't embrace excuses. I only embrace solutions.
Okay.
Right? So there comes a time where certain things you won't say because you don't want to maybe affect somebody. I'm not saying everybody has to listen to it. I'm just saying there's an alternative to it. And if you're thinking outside the box because you want to meet certain people, you might think differently. Going down the same road you've been going, you're still here. Let's see if Russell will change after this podcast. Does he get it? How often do I call you and say, Russell, you coming to my meeting this month? I do stay on top of you for that.
Yeah, you do.
like
You send me those emails, yes. And,
Right.
yes, I'm looking forward to doing a Zoom meeting with you guys, hopefully soon. But also, I wanted you to hold up your championship networking book for the audience.
Okay, let's find out where that book is. There's my championship networking book. See, I had black hair back then, too.
Yes, time does age us all. So, and if you could tell the audience how they could get more information about All Cities Networking.
Yeah. One of the things I always pitch is I'm very big on LinkedIn. Number one, Eric Shaw on LinkedIn, and all the All City stuff goes to that. But we have our All Cities website, which I want people to go to, which is called the allcitiesnetwork.org. And if you go to the website, as soon as you get on it, a bubble pops up, and it says, sign up for a free 30-day trial at All Cities. And then anybody can fill it out. I'll approve them and let them go to the Zoom meetings for a month. Have them see what we're capable of doing, how we can work together with them. By the way, let's back up again. After that needs, deals, wants, and testimonials section, there's one last part that starts at around 8:40 in the morning, and that's gain new friends. We're now going to break out in groups of 4 to set up a breakfast or lunch over the next 30 days. Evan, who would you like to meet? He wants Sally. Sally wants Joe. Joe wants Eric. We get up, we book our breakfast or lunch over the next 30 days. The meeting's over at 8:45. You'll be out the door by 9 a.m. So within 2 hours, you have a very strict agenda. You've met a whole bunch of people. And by the way, you do go home with a copy of everybody's business card. So you always know who's been at the meeting. You don't have to worry about, did I take any notes or I didn't bring a pen. You'll know for the next time to do it. Everybody does get a name tag. I don't want this to fall on the dry eyes, for lack of a better terminology. I want us all to be able to work together and be on the same page. What questions to ask when you meet people? Wrestlers, they talk to each other. They've got a gimmick behind them of what they want to accomplish. That's what makes them so good. They're very talented professionals, wrestlers. That's why I like them. And they can be anybody that you want them to be. That's the best part. If they want to go into character, they can be that character. That's what sells who they are. And they're selling themselves every time you meet them. And that's why, just like I said, if they're selling themselves every time I meet them or they meet people, that's the same thing with you, Russell. Anytime somebody meets you, you're there to sell them on who you are. Is that who you want to be? If it is, no problem. By the way, Evan, the more I look at you, especially on this angle, you look like Harvey Levin.
Harvey, remind me who that is.
Harvey Levin, you don't know? The lawyer, TMZ?
Oh, the guy on TMZ. Yeah.
Right, and also the lawyer commercials, whatever it is.
Yeah. I don't really watch TMZ, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. I guess he's in the hospital. He took a bike ride 2 days ago or 3 days ago, hit by a car or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You never know who you're going to see.
If you're not letting COVID get to you, it's everybody, trying to get out and exercise. I'm, me being a victim of that myself. Well, this was really a fantastic show, Eric. We've actually filled up the hour, and I really appreciate you having you here as a guest. We'd love to have you on in the future, especially if you've got a new show to promote or something like that. So keep us in mind when you're ready.
Let's put this on when you finish doing this. Send me over the link or whatever. I'll promote it through all cities. They can do it, and we can add different topics to the show.
That's wonderful too. So thank you so much, and we'll see everyone again next week. Thanks so much for being here.
Eric. Thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. You have a good one.
You too.
You too. Bye.